Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome this morning to Operation 7570, as we're glad to be with you after the holiday break. Certainly trust and hope that everybody had a great holiday, a Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. Made it through all the cold weather that we went through, and a big shout out to all our emergency responders, everybody that was out working so hard during the Christmas weekend. Street department, sanitation boys, of course, a water department was in there, Benton County Electric, Highway Department, TDOT, emergency responders, and David Markham with the Benton County Sports Hall of Fame's with us today. And Happy New Year to you, David.
Hey, thank you, Flash. Same to you.
And as we were talking yesterday, we just realized what a significant date January 6th was in Camden sports history, because back in 1961, we had a man from Camden, Tennessee. You may have heard of him, a man named Danny Boyd. He set a TSSAA individual scoring record, which still holds today, 104 points in a game at Clarksburg. And on the phone joining us for the first few moments today, this is Danny Boyd. Danny, how you doing today, sir?
I always say at my age I'm doing wonderful for a guy that is past 50.
Well, Happy New Year to you and all your family. And as David and I, as I said, David and I were talking yesterday, what a milestone that was over 60 years ago, 62 years ago now. Set us up. What was basketball like in those days, and how did it come about for you to get so many points against Clarksburg?
I had 6 sisters in my family, and I was the only boy until I graduated college. So I had a lot of time I didn't want to play with dolls, or didn't want to learn how to do cooking and all that thing, which probably was a mistake. I didn't learn to cook better. But we had a basketball goal. It was just a ring with no strings on the bottom of it, no net, and a wooden backboard, whatever. And I spent a lot of time shooting basketball. I'd go out when there was snow on the ground shooting basketball. It was frozen. Everybody was freezing, and I learned how to almost skate and shoot basketball. I remember when I couldn't even get the ball up to the rim unless I was inside where the free throw line is. But I kept working at it. And it was a passion for me. I loved it. I loved the sense of being able to do different kinds of shots and make them. I sort of idolized Bob Pettit in his career when he was with the St. Louis Hawks. He was one of the first ones that introduced the jump shot into the NBA. And so I said, I can do that. And there's some rhyme and reason to it. Physics would tell you if you get off of the ground, you probably will have more of your true body rhythm than if you have part of you anchored to the ground. So jump shots are a natural phenomenon to those who learn the technique and procedure. And I was taught how to shoot a jump shot. There's a perfect form to it that'll cause you to have more of a greater percentage of them made if you stay with that rhythm. And of course, many people can shoot. I was from the country, and I had friends that played ball all the time. We had one guy that was David Luther was his name. He was a neighbor about less than an eighth of a mile from where I lived. And Jim Johnson, that was Davis's cousin, and we played ball all the time out in the cow pasture of the Luthers there. And Davis was about 6'4", maybe 6'5", and I learned to shoot with Davis, around Davis, through Davis, over Davis, rebound and whatever. Jim was a great rebounder too. And you have to play competition or people bigger than you are, tougher than you are, whatever, if you're going to get better.
Yeah, and as the game moved along at Clarksburg that night, were your teammates, Jimmy and the folks, Jimmy Johnson, the folks you mentioned there, Danny, were they just constantly passing you the ball and tell you to shoot it, or did you give your teammates a chance to shoot during that ball game?
They had every chance to shoot and suffer the wrath of Coach Chester. I was approached by Coach, would I be willing to try to set a state scoring record that at the time Janet Hayes, who was a contemporary with Coach Chester, was a native, I think, of Henry, Tennessee. She played for Henry, and she scored 100 points in a girls' high school basketball game. That was when they played forwards on one end for the girls, and the only ones that could score was the forwards. And three forwards, 3 guards on each end, and you couldn't cross the center line. You had to throw the ball over. So I said, well, I don't have any interest. James Bell and I were captain of the team, and so we said I didn't want to divide the team, or I was one of the boys. I never felt like I was better than anyone or could do things that anyone couldn't do. I just did what I normally did.
Hey, Dan.
And,
Dan, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I don't want to forget something. We was talking about it last night. It was really a coincidence. At that time, a guy named Taylor had the state record that was officiating the ball game. That night that you scored 104 points, you broke his record for the boys' record. And that was kind of that was really something. I mean, there he was calling the game with a state record, and you broke it.
David is very, very going on with this. There's a lot of things about. I said to David, I said, if we were to try to do that again, it would be an impossible task. And I think it probably would have been, because Coach Chester went to Coach Golden, who was the coach at Clarksburg. They had known each other since college. They both played for Bethel College. And he told him, he said, Jack, we're going to try to set a state scoring record tonight. So Jack said to Coach Chester, and Coach Chester related this to us later, said, we're going to try to set this record. And so Jack said to Coach Chester, if you do, I'll put the whole team gardening. Well, I played cow pasture basketball. It didn't matter how hard you fouled me or you pushed me into a cow pile or whatever. You shook it off and got up and kept playing. And it was the passion for the game. So he said, Coach Chester said, Jack, it won't make any difference. Put them all on him. He'll still do what he does. And it was a unique situation, and I don't know. It was like David reminded us. The referee was Taylor, who had scored 82 points, I believe it was, in a high school game and held the state record, 80 or 82. And anyway, it was. I had no idea he was refereeing the game at that point in time, but later on, I became aware of that. David is a wonderful historian for sports in West Tennessee. I don't know how much those of your listeners know that, but David Markham is remarkable, and he was a three-sport athlete in school. He's a unique individual. I always admired him and respected him. He had one of the sweetest jump shots that I'd ever seen.
Yeah. Well, Well, Danny, speaking of history about that significant event, the young man that's in our other studio producing our show this morning, a guy named Luke Crutchfield, Luke informed David and I that his grandmother kept score at that particular basketball game. That Judith Paline now, who was Judith Stigall at the time, and she's passed on to Luke the stories about that as Judith kept score that night. So there's a little part of history.
One of my classmates.
Yeah. So shout out to Judith this morning.
I love Judith.
great individual for sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
She was great in high school. She was one of the most mature of my classmates. She was just a solid citizen, and I'm sure if she's still living, she's still a solid citizen.
Absolutely. She keeps Luke in the other studio straight a lot of the times, and she keeps her husband David Paline straight too. She's got a heavy task for sure, no doubt about that. Then
Now David was a musician extraordinary.
yeah, he still sings. He still sings in a gospel music group here in Camden. Does a great job. Great job.
I have never forgot my roots. I'm a Tennessee boy. I root for the Vols. I root for the team in Martin. They're not Vols. They don't call them Vols. They call them another name. But I root for all of them. And anytime I can get to see them in any sport, I watch them.
Well, we appreciate that so very much, and we're running out of time on this segment. I appreciate you calling, but I got to ask you this. After the 104 points were scored, did the college recruiters, did they start soliciting you, or did you get a lot of messages or letters from college basketball coaches at that time wanting you to come to their campus?
I got letters from Washington State, from Coach James, who was a football coach. But he recruited me to come and play basketball for the basketball team in Washington State. I was recruited by a forward colonel to go to the Air Force Academy. And Adolph Rupp had his personal assistant, and I think he was there at the gym scouting me in Camden, Tennessee. We happened to be playing Parsons, which is where I was born, and where I got my first interest in basketball was watching the Linden High School team play. And that was when I was, I don't know, fourth or fifth grade. I watched them play. They came and played. They had matinee type games. They'd come and play in the middle of the school time, I guess, to promote interest in basketball. Well, it caught my attention, and I said I could do everything they do. I just got to work on it. I watched it. I read the book that was written by one of the newscasters, or not newscasters, reporters from. I think he may have been with the Jackson paper at the time, but he later went to. I guess Memphis, and was the author there. I can't recall his name right off the top of my head, but I read that book. David loaned me the book. He had it, and I read about how the coach at Linden built his team. He went in and he recruited a lot of satellite schools, and he got boys to come in, and they were the state champions in Tennessee. And I think they won 2 out of the 4 years that Ellison was the center there. I think the guy was named with Ellison.
Dan, at one time they won more state champions than any school in Tennessee. That was during the Ellison era.
Yeah, and we had people that went to our church that I attended regularly. My family was very religious. My grandfather was a minister, and so I never entered a game that I played when I didn't ask for protection and help from God. And I have to say, I think my prayers were answered for the most part in favorable light. And I don't count that as saying that's the key. You got to have the ability. But when you have the ability and then you have the confidence that God is with you and you'll succeed, I think it helps you a whole lot. And I've been very fortunate in that area. My grandparents, we were raised in my grandparents' home until I was in 6th grade, and we lived in Decatur County. And my grandfather was a minister. My grandmother was a midwife. My grandmother delivered 750 some odd babies in Decatur County, Tennessee. She also delivered in the neighboring counties around there. and she never got a penny for any of her services. Nobody had money. But they would give her a gallon of milk, a dozen eggs, sometimes a slab of bacon, sometimes a whole middling that was salt cured, or a shoulder, or a ham. And I saw these, I call them salt of the earth people, my grandparents and my mother and my three sisters and me, that we lived there, and they were my family. So that was that was my moorings and my roots, and religion was a part of my grandfather. We had 2 bedrooms and a sitting room and a separate kitchen in the farmhouse, and I had to sleep with my grandfather when I was a young man, because my mom and 3 sisters occupied the bedrooms, and my grandfather and grandmother had a big master bedroom. They slept in separate beds. So I slept with my grandpa. I went to sleep every night with grandpa kneeling beside the bed and praying. He didn't make me, which was probably wise that he didn't, but I didn't know how to pray. But I guess the process of osmosis, or hearing it repeatedly, it became my second nature.
Danny, we appreciate the time today, and I might just ask you here in closing to give a message to these young athletes out there today, whether they're playing basketball, football, baseball, whatever their sport might be. What about a message, and what are you doing now 6 decades after the record? Where you make your home, and what are you up to in these days?
Well, I'm making a living after 50-plus years of active ministry, pastoring a church, and I'm still ministering. I minister to more people. I run a family business, and I go every 6 days a week. I'm the only employee, and I run it 6 days a week, and I'm glad I'm able to. I witness to people that, I don't force witnesses, I witness to people that I see hurting, and I see people that I've always been sensitive to other people, because probably because of circumstances in my own life, and I tell them that there's an answer for their dilemma that they're in. That's what I do. I do this every day. I'm going to work in about an hour and a half after I get off the phone with you guys.
Oh, Dan, I'm sure glad that it just worked out to where we can get you on Flash's show. It just seems like it was meant to happen. Yeah.
Well, thank you, David. David is a wonderful, wonderful brother-in-law, and my family is precious to me. I don't get to visit them here like I'd like to, because I'm busy making a living. And you can't get wealthy and be a true person of God. You've got to give what you get to help people that don't have. That's the calling of God. And I had a person tell me recently, and I didn't disagree with him, that I told him I was called to the ministries, why I didn't go and play college ball. He said, well, he said, that's an arbitrary statement, don't you? I said, it's arbitrary to everybody that hears it, but it's not arbitrary to me. I know what I was called to do and be, and I've been happy.
Hey, Dan.
I'm glad I still have strength to work. I found out when I was 71 and a half years of age that I had a congenital birth defect aortic valve. I was missing a flap. I was one of those people that you find dying on the court when you exert yourself beyond what your blood supply is.
Hey, Dan.
It wasn't a heart problem, it was a plumbing problem of the heart.
Dan?
Yep.
I'm going to try to get this in real quick, because I know Flash has got some other stuff we got to take care of. I've never told you this. Years ago, I was in Memphis working, and I was playing in an independent basketball league with some real good ball players. One of the players was Mike Butler, played high school at Memphis, played for Memphis State, went on and played in the pros. He was at the time one of the best high school players I'd ever seen. We were playing this, our team was playing his team. Well, I hit about 3 straight shots got hot and hit about 3 straight shots. We didn't have uniforms, but I had a football practice jersey on it, had Camden on it. Well, he came up to me and he said, saw it Camden, and he said, "Are you from Camden?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." He said, "Are you Danny Boyd?" I said, "No, if he was here, we'd be leading you 20 instead of 5.
You're kind, David.
Yeah.
You're kind. David needed supporting cast.
Absolutely.
Needed supporting cast.
Yeah. Danny, thank you so much. A happy new year. It's always great to chat with you. Hope to see you down here before too much longer. And God bless you. And have a great rest of the day. We'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Okay, I plan to come to the banquet that you have for the Hall of Fame banquet.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. We're going to talk about that on the next portion. But say hello to all the family, and God bless you, my friend. See you real soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Flash, for all your dedication to sports.
Thank you. All right. And we appreciate Danny Boyd joining us today, and that was very significant because of the date, 62 years ago, 104 points, David Markham in the game over at Clarksburg. You weren't at the game, were you?
I wasn't. I was
Okay.
at school at Martin and picked up the paper the next morning and saw it, and I thought something's wrong. I just couldn't comprehend it, Like I think I've told you, I called James Bell because I had his number. I played ball 5 years with James Bell when I was in school. And James said, "Oh, it's true. And we just kept talking. And James said, "Well, I scored 28 points."
Well, I tell you what, let's do then. We're running a little bit behind today, but let's take a break right now for our sponsors, our good friends at Apex Bank, and we'll be back to chat more with David Markham of the Benton County Sports Hall of Fame. Stay with us.
For more than 85 years, Apex Bank of Camden has built a tradition of local people serving local people. Although there have been changes over the years, this one thing remains the same. Hometown people that are your friends serving you every day to meet your financial needs. We want to see you grow and prosper. And when you ever have a need, you'll get personal attention right here at home, not in some far-off corporate office. Number 1 in customer service. Apex Bank of Camden, Benton County's best bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Operation 7570 on this first Saturday in January 2023. Again, great to have Danny Boyd to join us by way of phone this morning, talking about the significance of January 6th, 1961, when he set the TSSAA individual state high school basketball scoring record, 104 points in that game over at Clarksburg. And I just love milestones in history, and as we talk about milestones, I think in 2024, David, I think that will be the 100th anniversary of Camden football.
It will be 1924. As a matter of fact, I've got a picture of the team and of 1924, and the school has a picture of them out to high school of the first football team in 24.
That'll be something very much to look forward to. Of course, we'll get through the 2023 season, and as we start the 2023 season, we won't talk about Sports Hall of Fame activities, but related with the football. Going to be this year in football, new reclassification, so some strong teams on that Camden schedule this year.
Oh, I'm telling you, they've got the work cut out because there's some good competition, good teams. And if they can get through that, they're going to be going a long way.
No doubt about that. More about that on down the road as we get closer to the 2023 football season. But David, as we start 2023, what kind of year was it last year for the Sports Hall of Fame?
Well, I thought we was off 2 years due to the COVID, and got back last year, and we had it in October rather than May when we usually have it. Used to couldn't have it in October, but last year they helped us out and we did have it. And we're going to get back this year, trying to get back to our May date. And the reason being that works out better for most people. It's the Saturday, the 20th of May after school's out. There's a lot of people that come in, for graduation that comes to the banquet. A lot of the kids that we recognize is not gone on to school yet as a norm. And maybe they'll have a better opportunity to be there. It just works out better for us. It's a quicker turnaround this year that we're going to have to do a little work, a little harder, quicker, but we'll get it done. And we're going to we got a meeting next week to start it off, and we'll be doing everything we need to do to get it done.
And I think as we look at the calendar, if I'm looking at the calendar correctly, on that date of this year's Hall of Fame banquet, trying to get back on our regular schedule, May 20th, I think that's going to be the Saturday following high school graduation.
It is, and that's all, we've done that every year except last year, and it's always worked out for a good date for everybody. So we're going to get back to that.
With the individuals that were inducted this past October, 2 or 3 months ago, David, with these individuals now, how many members are inducted into the Hall? And let's just go over this, the latest class, too.
All right. Well, we got a total now of 57 members. We have been doing this. We started the first induction class was 2014. And, of course, we missed 2 years, but we've got 57. The last class that we had inducted was Stacy Baker. Stacy was, as everybody knows, was a coach. He coached the only state championship team, high school state championship team that Camden's ever had in girls softball. Mike Bullington was an outstanding athlete all the way around, football, basketball, baseball. He was good at everything. Janice Brewer coached and played ball. Janice was once a member of our Hall of Fame. People had a lot of respect for Janice and how she handled things. Ed Doolin. Ed played football and basketball. He's an outstanding person, good athlete. He's in 8th grade when I was a senior, and he could play. I just tell you that. Sid Osmond, no doubt about it, the best tennis player that's ever been around here, and just a good person. He's helped others. He's helped Tanya, that's won a scholarship to Wisconsin. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, Ellie Tanya's daughter,
right?
Reynolson.
And she said that she wouldn't be where she's at if it hadn't been for Sid. He's a good guy. Rod Sturdivant. Rod was an outstanding football, basketball, baseball player, and he won a state championship as a coach at Brewston in football. Gary Trout. Gary was a quiet leader. Tommy Richardson told me that Gary didn't have to say 2 words for people to follow him. He just was a person that had that about him. Also, we recognized the supporter this past year, and the supporter this past year was Brown Hawley. Brown just happened to be the first quarterback on the first team we were talking about a while ago, 1924. But Brown would collect aluminum cans, sell them, give them to the sports at Camden. He done a lot of things. At one point in time, he told me that he hadn't missed a ball game in 19 years. Not many people can say that, that's for sure. And Amanda Brandenburg was a basketball and softball, and I think if people remember her, she was just outstanding, just heads above most of the people that she faced. So we had a real good group.
Had a great group, and probably had an extra inductee or two because of the fact we've actually missed 2 years and trying to get back to normal that we can, as normal as we can.
Right. We had, of course, the 9 people, and years before, a couple of years before that, we were putting in 6. So by missing, we kicked it up a little bit. So.
Now, the hall was established, I think, when? 2014, around 2013, 2014?
The first induction class was 2014. We started to work on it in 13.
Right.
And the first class was in 14.
Yeah. You mentioned Rod over there and those fine teams he had when he coached over at Brewston Hollow Rock Central. I saw this week where he coached Patrick Willis. He played at Ole Miss and out with the San Francisco 49ers. And Willis is in several Hall of Fames, and rightly so. And I think I saw this week where he has been nominated for the NFL Hall of Fame.
I heard that too. And I don't see how he cannot be in it. I remember, when he played, and everybody probably heard it too, that I heard it mentioned many a time when he played, he was a surefire Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. And hopefully it gets in.
Proved his worth for sure,
yeah,
with all his accomplishments, and we wish him well. And we'll know in a few months about that particular nomination, and wish him the best of luck in that regard. With the banquet now getting back to normal, circumstances, having it in May 20th, I think we said, David. What does this mean as far as the nomination process goes, and who can be nominated, and the criteria there?
Well, the criteria is that somebody has to be out of high school for 10 years to be to be eligible to get in. They can be nominated any time, but they have to be out of school 10 years. So most of the time we wait till that time's up. They got to be out of college a year, or pros, or coaching. It's got to be a year. But that's the backbone of our whole program, is the nominations. The board members themselves cannot nominate somebody. All they can do is take the public's nomination and vote on them. And those nominations are held for 10 years. Now, by missing 2 years in 20 and 21, we'll extend that, 2 years, because we'll keep them 10 years. But I got a real good nomination this week on a real deserving person that will be put in the system this year. But if you have any ideas, and you know that there's some people out there's a lot of people out there that deserve to be nominated, we need the nominations. You can get a form from any of the board members. We leave some forms usually at the school, the radio station, or different places. My number was put in the paper. You get a hold of any board member, and we'll take care of you. And it's also going to be on. It's also on the computer. Mm-hmm. We've got John Taylor came in he's the baseball coach at Camden, and he came in last year, and he's handling our computer business. But let me tell you something about John Taylor. Ever since he's been here, he's been working on a sports library for Camden. And I'm telling you, it's amazing at the work and the things he's done. And I just love to look at it and see the things he's done. But he is a shot in the arm. And if you know somebody that you would like to see nominated, John Taylor can help you with a lot of things, the stats and so forth, because he's got some that you won't believe that he's got them, and goes way, way back.
And he's all the time, and we put this out in times past, and we'll give this again, he is looking for old pictures, of significant players in Camden sports history. Big Sandy as well, Holiday as well then. And, we've put that call out many, many times, and I'm sure that there are some people out there that have old photos. I may have forgotten about them, but they're just black and white photos of sports individuals that made significant contributions to Benton County high schools in the past. And, you may have put them up and forgotten about them, but I'm sure people out there just have things like that, and it's hard to find records. It's really hard to find, stats and records and pictures on people so far back, David. I guess, and that's when we first started, some of those folks. It's a job.
Back in those days, it just wasn't a thing that people kept records like they do today. I know there's some things that I recall that I didn't even know it back then at the time, the things that happened in records and stuff. But years ago, I got to go into the library and going in the archives, and I enjoyed that because you could go back and find a lot of things. And John Taylor, during the COVID, when school was out, he just about lived down there, going through the library. And he's always calling somebody that may know something about it, and go back ways to help him out. But he's done an excellent job. There won't be any school that I know of around anywhere that's got what he's developed.
Yeah. And, of course, when athletes think of Camden Central High School, of course, with the sports activities out there, but we're also including Holiday and Big Sandy as we go along. So keep those folks in mind, too.
Exactly. Been some real good athletes to come out of both of those schools. And we've got people, in Hall of Fame now from Holiday and Big Sandy. And we still need some nominations there.
They tell me back in the day, and you remember this, and of course we're a generation now removed from when Holiday was closed. They tell me back in the day you had it was just like a battle to the finish in those days.
We went to Hall in Big Sandy's. One thing about it, you better bring your A game and get ready because you's going to be in the game, that's for sure.
Well, of course, I was just looking up just last year as we go back. Of course, we had the district basketball tournament out here at Camden last year for the first time, I think, in 50 years. And as I went back and did some research, found out information about that basketball, the last tournament out here, which I think was 71 or 72 back in those days, David. You still had I think that was before, we had all the classification. You still had like 12, 13 teams in those tournaments.
Oh, yeah. Danny was talking, made a comment, I don't know if you caught it before, but back in those days, there's so many teams in the district, you had to play day games and night games to get through the tournament because you had so many teams. If I'm not mistaken, at one time, we had close to 20 teams in our district, and you couldn't do it, get them in without playing day and night.
And you probably in those days, and I remember this, I've forgotten about it till last year, but you would have maybe the boys tournament at one school and the girls tournament at the other.
Exactly. Sure did. It was just a lot of sports. Of course, I loved it.
Well, of course, as we go through, of course, you watched it Monday night, I did too, our hearts and prayers, and we're still wishing this young man from Buffalo the very best because that was chilling watching that Monday night.
It sure was. And I tell you, it came out as good as I think it can. People, they stopped everything they were doing, just stopped. That was the most important thing. And that's what we got to get back to.
Absolutely then. And of course, pro football game, and we've seen injuries on the field before in pro football games, college as well, but I think this is the probably the most challenging any of the medical crews, the trainers on spot had ever had to deal with. And, they had the right people there at the right time for that young man to do what they needed to do on the field, get him in the ambulance and get him to the University of Cincinnati Hospital, where he's under the best care in the United States right now. And I think he's making improvement.
Oh, yeah. I think the Lord's looked after him.
Absolutely.
Sure has.
That's right. David, again, as we close out the program today, let's talk about when the nominations for this year's class for the Hall of Fame, the application process. Let's go when that deadline is again, how people can get a nomination form and what they need to do with that after they make a nomination.
Okay. In the past, we've had it like February 28th is the deadline to get them in for this year. Now, you can get them in any time, but that's just a cutoff so that when we do sit down and look at all of our nominations, we can say, well, we can go up to this point, and then you have to start over the next year. But, we got, our first meeting next week. We're going to have a little quicker turnaround. We're getting started. We usually have a meeting in December, but we didn't have some due to the bad weather and what have you. But I won't say this for sure, but we're going to discuss a few things next week, and we may go a week or two longer this year. I'm not saying we will. We're going to talk about it and see what everybody says on the board about what we should do, but we will get everybody's word on that. But like I say, you get the nominations from any of the board members. You can get it on the internet, on Benton County High School Athletic Hall of Fame. Anybody can get into that. You can get a nomination, turn it into any of the board members, drop it off at the school. John Taylor's at the school. He can get it out there. Coach McDowell's been on the board. They'll take care of it out there. Big Sandy, drop it off at the school. I guarantee you we'll get it if you drop it off at Big Sandy. You'll fill it out and get it. We'll get it. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And we could not let the program get by without an acknowledgement to all these fine sponsors. We were talking about the sponsors before the program, and hey, we appreciate the support of all these restaurants and businesses and everybody that supports the Benton County High School Athletic Sports Hall of Fame, because we couldn't do it without them.
Well, that's for sure. Flashes and I was talking a while ago. I can't make any promises right now, but we're going to do something a little special this year to try to recognize our sponsors, give them a little more recognition. And don't know what that's going to be, but it's going to be something that's going to be good. And we're going to do that because we couldn't have it without it. It's that simple. and we've got some outstanding people running businesses in this county.
You're exactly right, and these are the folks that support your community, and not just our high school athletic sports hall of fame, but all these other worthwhile causes out there. And they are the people, they are the movers and shakers, and support local businesses for sure.
Exactly. If you can buy something in the county, buy it, because it helps everybody.
Well, David, thank you very much. And do you have a closing word for us today?
Well, just maybe the weather's going to get a little better here, I hope, soon, and birds start singing. Maybe we just play a little golf, do a little something, but get going on the Hall of Fame. And if we can get all that done, we'll be doing good.
Always a pleasure to see you. Thanks for giving up some of your Saturday morning, and always great to talk with Danny Boyd. We appreciate Danny calling us, and he may get an opportunity, as he said, to come in May. And hey, we look forward to seeing Danny if he gets that opportunity to be with us at the May banquet on May 20th. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's our program today, Operation 7570. Thank you so much for being with us. Thanks to our sponsor, our friends at Apex Bank. Thanks to Luke Crutchfield and the other studios with us today for getting us on the air, and for his cooperation with us today and getting the phone line set up with Danny. We hope you have a great day, a great weekend. We'll see you next Saturday morning.
Apex Bank of Camden, proudly serving the Benton County community since 1931.